See a retina specialist as soon as possible.
You're listening to WBGM AM and FM Lynchburg, now powered by ESPN Radio and streaming at VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Hi, I'm Priscilla Presley. My love for animals began when I was 5 years old and found a puppy wandering alone. Growing up in a military family, pets weren't allowed, but I couldn't turn him away, and my family let me adopt him. That moment sparked a lifelong commitment to speak up for animals who can't speak for themselves. 50 plus years ago, Elvis and I supported American Humane Society because animals deserve our voice. And now, more than ever, they still do. American Humane Society saves lives and strengthens the bond between humans and animals. Each year, millions of animals end up in shelters, waiting for someone to give them a second chance. Your compassion can change a life. Please visit AmericanHumane.org to learn more. Thank you.
One of the many things I'm thankful for this year is InsaneRadioDeals.com, because the best deals are all there for you. Liberty Flames football tickets, InsaneRadioDeals.com. Gift cards to Oliver's on Rivermont, Caribbean Jerk Pod, JD's Cafe, downtown Cairo, InsaneRadioDeals.com. Great deals just in time for the holiday season at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Head to the site right now before they run out.
Looking for classic hits? We've got them on Rewind 1039. Lynchburg's classic hits, and we never stop the music for more than 90 seconds. Rewind 1039.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
So there's a certain element of what happens when the college football playoff selection committee rankings are released that should be tempered. But there's a certain amount where you can read in to certain things that are being put out there or not. Temper the fact that South Florida is ahead of JMU right now in the initial projections. Neither one are officially listed in the top 25, but the committee has said that South Florida would get in if the playoffs began as of their rankings released last night. But temper it. South Florida still has to go to Navy this week. We've seen what's happened oftentimes when schools from Florida have to go to colder weather climates, particularly physical run-dominant teams in the month of November when the weather kind of stinks and it's not nearly what they're used to. They go from literally looking big and bad to playing not so well, pretty bad. And the thing of it is, if I'm a JMU fan, I would temper the initial rankings release. Like, I don't think this is exactly earth-shattering information to say that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm right. share with us. Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TJ_Wilkerson8. We'll get to that 5:45 today here in the Fastlane. But when it comes to JMU, yeah, it's disappointing, but I'm not really getting all worked up based on what we've seen so far. I'll go back to an extent, not directly, but the outside noise part. I think you've got a good coach who I think is too good. I think he's going to be somewhere else next year, and Bob Chesney leaving JMU. Agent's Jimmy Sexton. We know how that works. His job, Sexton's, is to keep moving his guys up the food chain and getting them as much as possible. You hire Jimmy Sexton, it's the same thing as a baseball player hiring Scott Boras. Highest bidder. That's the number one goal all the time. Always a free agent, always looking to maximize
Lots of power.
to get as many
dollar bills, y'all,
as you possibly can. But let's keep it in the present. For JMU, I think they can make the playoffs. I don't think this is going to be a distraction because back in the day, when a coach was looking elsewhere, players might get antsy. Now let's keep it real. Those players may go with them. They may be auditioning. They may be getting, shout out to my guy, Will Wade, but they may be getting their McNeese State on. Where the coach is looking, so too are the players, and they all view it as an audition, which is why you can stay bought in. A la when Will Wade was clearly looking at NC State. His players knew it, but they still managed to pull the first round upset of Clemson in this past year's NCAA tournament. You knew about it because you listened on your home for the best play-by-play for free, the VTRN Sports app. But here's what Bob Chesney had to say about just the value of national TV exposure, the value of all this attention, and what impact it does or does not have on JMU, including the college football playoff rankings right now.
We're going to play our brand of football, whether we're on a Tuesday and nobody's watching, or we're on a Saturday at high noon and everybody's watching, or we're Friday night. It doesn't matter really to us. We were excited to get out there and have that opportunity to play. But it is great for the school. It's great for the community. It's great for everybody to be proud of what this team is accomplishing up to this point in time. But if we start looking too far ahead, there won't be anything left to accomplish. So it's very important for us to understand that this recognition is happening, and because they're winning, and that's nice, but why are they winning is what's important to focus on. And I know our guys are capable and locked in on doing that.
Bob Chesney, speaking about TV exposure, college football playoff rankings, the fact that JMU's been on a prime TV slot the last 4 weeks. Some of that's because they've been playing midweek games. Let's keep that in context. Some of it's also the fact they've been playing really good football, and they've got a sexy brand. It's fun to watch with Alonzo Barnett III at quarterback, and they perform really well. And they don't have the peak that Liberty has of making a New Year's Six bowl game, but they arguably have more consistency than Liberty's had in the BCS or the FBS era, because let's also not kid ourselves. JMU has not had the slumps that the Liberty Flames endured last year relative to expectations, and this year more so relative to expectations. JMU, not quite the highs, but not quite the lows. So there's something to be said for that. But the other thing of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings, bigger picture, is the perception of the ACC. TJ, if I were a real professional, I would have had your comment from Friday's edition of the Fast Lane teed up. But to get my confession on, I failed to do that. So,
do you believe that? Well,
if
I was more available, I probably should have done it myself.
I mean, look, you've got another job to do. So do I. So let's not kid ourselves. But I mean, look, if you're doubting that TJ even said that,
no.
Let's just direct where you can go.
And guess what? We keep receipts.
At Fastlane Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, most importantly for this, however you listen to podcasts. TJ, you're the one who posed the question. Why does the College Football Playoff Selection Committee disrespect the ACC? Am I using your words appropriately, or did I misphrase it?
No, you said it right. I said, why is the ACC, unless it's Clemson, disrespected when it's other schools?
So that's a very reasonable and fair question to ask. I think there are a couple of reasons to answer your question, and you can nitpick all of mine that you want, because you posed this, and I could be wrong, but having heard your debate Friday in the Fast Lane live and going back and listening, Fast Lane, Ed Lane, at podcast platforms, because
guess what? We keep receipts.
Which makes it a lot easier to do that, as Coach Brown would remind us. It sounds like you're a little bit miffed at this, correct?
Yeah, I would say so. I think my whole thing is this. I understand, and I said this Friday, I understand UVA's schedule is not appetizing, and I understand they've struggled to break away from teams like Carolina, who's on the bottom of the ACC. But I want to say, like Miami, as soon as they lost to SMU, it felt like the committee was ready to bring them down 10 spots. Whereas I felt like Notre Dame, they've had a couple of good wins, but I felt like Miami has the better resume, in my opinion. And I'm a Texas fan, Ed. I love the Longhorns since Colt McCoy's days. I will say that Georgia Tech should be over Texas just because. And I know they lost to NC State, as did UVA, and we don't know where Dave Dorn's going to lie and whatever. But my whole thing is Texas barely beat Mississippi State, who's now a very mid SEC team. Florida, who fired their head coach a week later, beat Texas at the Swamp. Why does Texas get grace for that? But why does UVA not get grace for losing to Wake Forest or NC State? You know, I will say the committee said, hey, they deserve a little bit of grace because Chandler Morris was out. Thank you, committee, for at least doing that. But why is Miami and Louisville get punished for losing to SMU in California when schools like Texas almost lost to Florida, almost lost to Mississippi State? Who has BYU played, and so forth?
I think those are very reasonable questions. The latest edition of the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings. Again, some of it I don't overinvest in. South Florida would be in over JMU if the playoffs started today.
I agree.
Full disclosure, as someone who may or may not have put a 13-1 ticket on JMU to make the playoff at a sportsbook legal one when I was out of the state, and you could do that. You know, I mean, look, hey, you got to game the system however you can. If our elected officials, I don't call them leaders because they don't know what they're doing in this, but if our elected officials would just allow it, like, in North Carolina, you can bet on North Carolina schools. In West Virginia, you can bet on West Virginia schools. In Pennsylvania, you can bet on, well, you can't bet on Pennsylvania schools, but if you go across the street to New Jersey, you can. I mean, it's amazing. Like Camden, it's totally safe to bet on Philadelphia. But if you're in Philadelphia, it all of a sudden becomes a real Cardinals. So, it's amazing how these types, I can't figure it out. Or it's a Cardinals thing to bet on Villanova, at least, in Pennsylvania, not Philadelphia sports teams. But the point of the matter is, as somebody who has a JMU ticket, I would like them to get in there. I am not panicking right now because this could get crazy in that regard. But I think what we do take away from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee rankings, initially Virginia was the top ACC school.
Yeah.
But they were clearly like the last team in when the playoff rankings came out last week.
Absolutely.
And this week, to slot Miami as your top ACC school, even though they are sixth place basically in the ACC right now, they are not eliminated mathematically from making the ACC championship game. But they're like that week 17, week 18 NFL team where they can clinch a playoff berth if they win, 4 teams win, 3 other teams lose, and in some combination, it seems like they play each other.
Yeah.
And by the way, they need some unknown strength of schedule metrics to go their way. That's what it feels like with Miami right now.
Right.
But the fact that they were put at the top, above the rest of the ACC, but strategically still below Notre Dame, I think says 2 things. If Miami wins out and Notre Dame wins out, never mind that Miami won week 1.
Yeah.
Or week 1. It wasn't week 0. It was week 1 at home against Notre Dame. Let's disregard that. We want Notre Dame in. Never mind the fact that Notre Dame really hadn't played anyone outside of Texas A&M. So I get Miami beat USF, who right now would be in the playoff, much like Texas A&M. And granted, I'll grant you this. Texas A&M, they're a better team. They'd be higher in the playoff.
Absolutely. They should be.
But Notre Dame lost to A&M and Miami. If they beat Pitt handily, Pitt may fall further. They really will have not beaten anybody.
Right.
We're basing Notre Dame on what, last year?
Yeah.
Notre Dame on brand appeal? I think it's a reasonable complaint. And by putting Miami at the highest in the ACC, and they're your ACC team that's a default into the rankings, either it's one of 2 things. The selection committee doesn't pay a lot of attention and it's a gross oversight, or, and I wish it was number 1, even though it wouldn't shock me either, lack of attention to detail. But it's hard to believe because Rich Clark is a former Air Force guy. Great interview with him, ACC kickoff CFP director. But no, he's in charge of that. I think it's more number 2.
Yeah.
I think they want to send the message that they're not going to get an at-large bid to the ACC.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to your question, TJ, that it's very valid to question what there is that's a gripe with the ACC. I have my theories, but I just wanted to lay that out there that based on the rankings last night, by putting Miami 6th in the ACC and a 6% chance to make the championship game in is the team that they would put in. It's basically saying, hey, well, if Miami doesn't get in, we'll just slot somebody else in, but we're not giving Miami an at-large berth over Notre Dame, whom they beat head-to-head, who have comparable strength of schedules. We just don't want the ACC in, and that's a disrespect.
I will say this. I want Notre Dame in. I want to see Jeremiah Love in the college football playoff. He should be in the Heisman talks right now. And I will say this. There's also talk that if Duke somehow wins, then the ACC should be eliminated, and they think there's going to be another group of 5. I would hate to burst people's bubble. As much as I would love to see JMU in, the committee would rather have a 9-3 John Mateer Oklahoma Sooner team in before they let another group of 5 school in.
Oh, for sure. No question. I mean, they would much rather do that. That's the reality of it. But I will say this. I don't know if there's even a new system by expanding a playoff that's going to get more group of 5 teams.
No.
I wish there was. I'm not under the delusion that letting a group of 5 team into the playoff means they have a chance to win the whole thing.
Right.
You're talking about different athletic profile makeups of players. Liberty, Oregon was the stark example, but while JMU this year looks bigger than Liberty this year, JMU this year size-wise is about on par with what Liberty put against Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl. Neither of those teams was going to beat Oregon.
Right.
Like, neither one. I saw Oregon up front in person. Were you at that game, by the way, TJ?
No, I was at County Smoke watching it from.
No problem. I was there. Yeah. I could tell looking on the field. Oregon and Liberty played football that day, but they were not playing the same type of football with their athletes. So I'm not under the delusion that's going to happen. But I'd rather see it. But to get to the ACC's point of why they're disrespected by the playoff, I agree with you. I think there is a disrespect. But I think also some of this has to go back to the backgrounds of the ACC and, frankly, everyone else with whom they're competing.
Yeah.
The Big 12 and the ACC are largely similar.
Yeah.
Big 12, I think top to bottom has more football crazed schools.
Yeah.
But the biggest brands are still in the ACC. Miami, Clemson, FSU. When they have their act together, North Carolina, Virginia Tech. I'll throw Virginia in that category as well, although this year does not do them any favors. Overall, athletically, there's some history there with Virginia. But certainly the other 5 that we mentioned. Clemson, FSU, Miami, Virginia Tech, all are the football power programs. I think at their best, they're all ahead of it.
I would say Georgia Tech. I'd throw Georgia Tech in there.
I think you could make a compelling case. But the ACC's issue is, I think, look at their background. Look at every other conference. The Big Ten is basically run by a TV guy in Tony Petitti. We can laugh at some of his insane proposals.
Yeah.
They're not going to accept private equity if Michigan and USC are not on board. Because if they're not on board, private equity is not going to be as large as if they are. Those are 2 of the 5 biggest brands in that conference, along with, in no particular order on any of these, Ohio State, Oregon, and Washington. Like, there's a drop-off from those 5 to the rest of the conference. If you want to throw Nebraska in there based on their history, I might buy it, but anyone else, I'm not. But it's run by a conference. He understands how to promote yourself from a TV standpoint. Greg Sankey followed Mike Slive. He was at the SEC office for years. By the way, Sankey is a Syracuse graduate, and a lot of people at ESPN are Syracuse people. There is an understood connectivity and language that Sankey is very good at using in backroom deals and being able to promote his brand. And he has always pimped the SEC brand. It just means more. We can laugh about it, but their fan bases, top to bottom, trump the ACC's.
Yeah.
And the Big 12. Brett Yormark has done a lot more than Jim Phillips in the ACC to promote their brand.
I agree.
And so that's part of why the ACC, I would say, TJ, they are in this spot. I don't like it. I'm with you.
Yeah.
But if I'm just sitting here explaining why we're in this spot, looking at the ACC and why they're disrespected, look at the ACC historically.
Yeah.
They've added a bunch of boutique-type schools. When they've expanded and they've had a chance to add football brands, we don't want West Virginia because we don't believe in their academics. But then we got desperate enough, we added Louisville, who's kind of in the same ballpark. Like, we made an exception, but we didn't make another exception. Like, they're literally cherry picking. But look at the rest of their expansion candidates. Pitt, I can buy it with the history. But Syracuse, Boston College, definitely not. And then, ironically, when you add SMU, Stanford, and Cal, what is that adding? SMU, I'll get it. I'll use the quote for years. They backed it up in football the last couple of years. Rhett Lashley looks like a legit good coach. Yeah. I would extend him, and I would stick around at SMU if I'm Lashley, too. Your path to the college football playoff is a lot easier in the ACC than it is if you went to Arkansas in the SEC.
Which is why Franklin should sign with Tech over Arkansas.
For sure. I mean, no question. Like, if you're James Franklin, the path is in the ACC.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a bunch of boutique schools. You just out-recruit them and you roll them off the bus and you're going to win some games. But the ACC has done themselves in. They have a bunch of non-passion schools, so they don't have a lot of schools advocating for how great their football is and having the ear share on the level of other schools. Again, not that these are great schools, but let's look at the SEC. Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Kentucky, football, not basketball, Missouri. None of them have real big storied traditions in football. No. Look at the Big Ten. There's some schools in there. I mean, Iowa. Who wants to watch an Iowa football game? That's why we had it the very end of it on VTR in sports after the Virginia Tech overtime thriller against Providence this past week. Because Who wants to watch it when you can listen to it? But there are other schools in the Big Ten as well. Illinois, Purdue, Wisconsin. It's not a fun, sexy brand of football to watch. But guess what they have? They have large enough, passionate enough fan bases that are arguing for what their school is worth, which thereby argues what their conference is worth. Do you really get the feeling that you're getting that out of a Syracuse, out of a Stanford and Cal, out of a Boston College, out of those type of schools? I have been at the ACC kickoff and tip-off for each of the last 5 years, since COVID, basically. BC. Before COVID, not as much. But AC, after COVID, I made that one up. I've been there. And there's hardly any presence from them. SMU doesn't have much of it anyway, but I'll at least give them credit. There's a lot of billion-dollar boosters behind it, and they're paying for the level of exposure, and they've earned it with football and backed it up. They're kind of a Big 12 light type school. I can respect that. But look at the ACC. So you've got that, and then Jim Phillips, the commissioner, his background is in academia. Everybody seeing hands, kumbaya, everybody get along nicely. It's kind of a dog-eat-dog world. You got to be pimping your own brand. Pardon my expression here. Yeah. And the ACC has been slacking in all those areas. So when it comes to the perception of the conference, it is further behind. And they've allowed ESPN, who has their rights and the rights of the SEC, to treat it like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
Let's be real here. College game day, by and large, has been on SEC campuses this year.
Yeah, and it makes sense why.
And I get why. It's the easy answer, TJ. Why do you think it's been on SEC campuses?
Because it's a bigger brand.
Well,
SEC's a bigger brand.
Well, but not only that, they've been on SEC campuses over Big Ten when the Big Ten has made sense in certain spots. You know why that is?
More because ESPN and money.
That's
right?
correct.
Whereas Fox will go to the Big Ten stuff.
Darn right.
ACC has the CW. Everyone else has Fox and CBS.
Correct. And you hit the nail on that. And look, I love the broadcast quality of the CW. I actually think the CW puts more into some of their broadcasts than the ESPN ACC broadcasts have been in certain situations.
Yeah.
Some of it's been better than others, but the CW, I mean, it's a nationally distributed network. And by the way, you don't have to deal with billionaires and trillionaires arguing in the YouTube TV deal with ESPN as they're fighting over it because the CW is just another network in and of itself. Of course, you can just bypass all that by downloading the VTR and Sports app and listening to the best play-by-play for free, including that Virginia Tech basketball game against St. Joe's tonight that you might not be able to watch, but you can listen to starting at 6:30 p.m., about an hour and change from now on VTR and Sports. But I think your point is right, TJ. Why does the committee disrespect the ACC? I think there is disrespect, and I think it's a little overblown. But a lot of this is the ACC's own doing.
Yeah.
And I think there's value in there of getting a commissioner and getting leadership in that are willing to pimp the brand 24/7 and view it as maybe not singing kumbaya, but promoting your biggest brands and their accomplishments and continually pushing it out. But the other part is the best schools in the ACC have got to do their job as well. Clemson and Florida State were on the non-rated ACC network over the weekend. They're the two suing the ACC, squabbling over money, but yet they're not relevant. Miami, as great as they are, and I'm a Miami Hurricanes guy, but Mario Cristobal does not strike me as the type of coach that gets it.
They're the Dallas Cowboys of November.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think it's a reasonable comparison.
Yeah.
In the sense that when it matters most, they shrivel up. And even when they win, you got to do what Notre Dame did over the weekend against Navy. Notre Dame was up 42-10 at the end of the third quarter. They added a late touchdown to make it 49-10. But Miami, they allowed a backdoor touchdown to Syracuse, 38-10. Style points matter.
Yeah.
Whether Mario Cristobal wants that or not, if you're the ACC commissioner, it's your job. Get down there and tell him. Get down there and tell Dabo. Get down to Florida State. Or if the other schools are relevant, tell Brent Key at Georgia Tech. Tell Rat Lashley at SMU. You need to win your non-conference games. If you're SMU, you can't be losing to Baylor like SMU did.
Yeah.
If you're Miami, you can't be losing conference games and wetting the bed, particularly against Louisville with 4 picks against by Carson Beck or against SMU. You need to step up. If you're putting all this money in like Miami is, deliver it with results. The ACC is not doing that. And Virginia winning a bunch of close games indicates they can't pull away from anyone. Yeah. Duke, who's also in there, not only a small brand, but they've treated the non-conference slate like it doesn't matter. And maybe it doesn't to win the ACC, but the perception of the conference, it does matter.
It does. Yeah.
They've lost to Tulane, Group of 5 program, Illinois, the UConn lost this past weekend. And I get Tulane and UConn have done a great job. But you're losing those type of games.
Yeah.
Oh, and 2 of them are on the road. Like, cut the road games out at these places. Pay the money to not fulfill those contracts if you're the ACC. I know you're not in the same spot as others, but if you want to send the message you're playing big boy football, if you're the conference commissioners, no more of that. No more of it. As a college football fan, I love the idea of big schools coming to places like Liberty or JMU. But if I'm those big schools and I'm the commissioner of the ACC, that ends immediately because it is hurting the perception of the conference. And all of that is added up to the fact that I'd be shocked if the ACC gets more than one team in. And I don't think it's Miami, even if Miami wins out and has a better case than a Texas or a Notre Dame.
Yeah, it would probably be either Miami or Georgia Tech, unless UVA wins out. If UVA loses to Duke this week, then it would have to be Georgia Tech.
No doubt it would. Fast Five at 5-ish, we're going to table that. We'll do that after our chat with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast. And we're overdue for a little bit of fan feedback, particularly on the Liberty Flames. Into the Weeds, we may just do all Into the Weeds on Liberty tomorrow in the Fast Lane, or we may do fan feedback tomorrow. We will do the Fast Five at 5-ish for some of those topics. And then, I don't know, we'll figure out the next bit when we go. But when we come back, Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast on what we've seen from high school football at the end of the regular season and if it pretends to more chaos in the playoffs. That when we return, this is the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app, and ask that smart speaker, open VTR and Sports.
It's the final countdown to savings during the Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Holiday savings have started, and this is your last chance to save. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Stop the search. Head to the Motor Mile for over 900 pre-owned vehicles to choose from, and a huge selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. 11 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, all in one location. The Sheeler Motor Mile gives you choices more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company. We make it easy to buy with in-house financing. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. 11 new car brands, over 900 used vehicles, all in one location. Our biggest sale of the year is here. The Red Tag year-end sales event at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. But hurry, this sale ends when the new year begins.
Your home is more than just walls and windows. It's where life happens. And at Right Choice Construction, we get that. We're not just builders. We're fathers, mothers, neighbors, just like you. And every nail and every beam reflects our commitment to creating a place you're proud to live in. With Right Choice Construction, you're choosing a team that's been perfecting the art of building for years. So build with us. Build with experience. Build with quality. Build with Right Choice.
Hey, Hokie fans, are you still getting your Hokie sports news from other outlets, or even worse, the newspaper? Well, you're missing out. Tech Sideline has assembled the largest and most talented team to ever cover Virginia Tech athletics. If you want Hokie sports coverage that is second to none and will make you the smartest fan at the tailgate, subscribe to TechSideline.com for just $12 a month or $120 a year. Tech Sideline, all Hokie, all the time, period. Subscribe today at TechSideline.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Will the Easy Glass Hilltoppers exact sweet revenge from an earlier season loss to the JF Cavaliers? Or will JF punch their ticket to round 2 of the VHSL Class 4 playoffs? Find out this Friday on JF Cavaliers Football, presented by TrostLaw.com. Your Central VA Flooring kickoff show starts at 6:30 on the Virginia Talk Station app, 100.9 FM Lynchburg, 95.5 FM Bedford, and open WIQO radio on your smart speaker. JF Football is also presented by Forest Youth Athletic Association, Magic City, Chrysler Dodge, Jeep Ram Bedford, and Meineke Car Care. So it's just a start for Liberty Flames men's basketball, but it is a cap to what was, for the most part, an impressive weekend for Liberty Flames athletics. When you combine going 2-0 in the Field of 68 basketball event, getting it on campus, which is very difficult to get even quality mid-major type opponents like Charleston and Florida Atlantic, and of course the fact that Liberty Flames field hockey wins the Big East Championship earlier this Sunday, women's soccer wins the CUSA Championship a couple days ago, and while football lost, overall, it's a start and an impressive cap for a good weekend.
Hey, this is Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, and you're listening to VTRN Sports 93.3 FM and the VTRN Sports app, the home of the NFL all season long.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook. Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Wild and thrilling. That's one way you could describe what we got to experience in the final week 11 of the high school football regular season this past weekend. Somebody who was there at Sabre Stadium with us for JF Cavalier Football, presented by PerStall.com, joins us now in the Fast Lane, Bob Alvis. Bob, will we get more chaos? First of all, Bob, great to have you as always. Love hearing your insight from the Sports Buffet podcast and sharing it here in the Fast Lane. Are you expecting more wildness this weekend, or maybe we have to wait a little bit further into the playoffs, given that some of these teams that were in thrillers last week were so good that they may be in blowouts this week?
I have become a rotund person, so I don't know if my heart can take any thrillers like that. I mean, what a game. Heritage doesn't have it except for 5 plays in the second half and wins. 2 turnovers, each one by Heritage, one by JF. I felt like we're huge in that game. I felt like it was a thrilling game, but that's not the only place there was a thriller. There was a thriller in Gretna, and it was a thriller in Danville with GW and Magna Vista and Danville, Alta Vista and Gretna. In Gretna, I think the biggest problem this week, except for JF, they don't have this problem, is you're facing an unfamiliar foe. JF is facing EC Glass, which could be a problem in itself in terms of you're facing a foe you know. But I mean, to me, when you face a foe you don't know, that's another problem setting up, because you feel like, hey, we're the 1 seed or whatever. We should beat this team by, I don't want to say a gazillion, but by a lot, and on the field and expect to win.
So you bring up that angle. The other angle to this is it's not like there are major travel gaps that we've seen. This is not your 2.5 to 3 hour bus rides for that. How much do you factor in that this could get a little squirrely this week for the unfamiliar teams? Maybe not by the end of the game, but certainly in the early portion of it, causing some queasiness amongst our area teams. Bob Alvis, Sports Buffet Podcast. We'll get him reconnected here. We're having a little bit of a technical challenge right now. Bob, can you hear us?
I mean, I know the third and fourth quarters are big because you can throw on a lot of points, but I also say you can lose the game. Can you hear me?
No, we cannot hear you. We can hear you now, of course, as you say that. Bob Alvis, can you hear us
me?
better? Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us? All right. Hey, cut him out off the stream, TJ. Call him back on his phone. We'll get Bob Alvis on that way. We love the streaming option, but sometimes it doesn't work out in the midst of life. I get it. This is my little detour, by the way, here in the Fast Lane. Pun intended, since Bob was driving.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
I get it. People are, video is great. It is great when we can have it, and we love our guests to be able to join us on video. We're also mindful of the fact that life exists, and when life exists, it becomes even more challenging to do that. By the way, TJ, I'm going to show you my computer so that you can just take a look at Bob's number and just call it off of the one that's highlighted there. So,
unnecessary detour. Let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
by the way, speaking of, if it feels like we're swerving here in the Fast Lane, imagine something that's even more scary than us swerving in the Fast Lane. People actually swerving because they're not good drivers. And there's the reality of it. Those people may not be in the right state to drive as far as state of mind. Those people might not even have the license to be able to drive. Uninsured motorists are out there on the road. First of all, make sure your insurance provider has you covered with great uninsurance motorist coverage. That message from the people who can help you if you are impacted by an uninsured motorist are friends at trostlaw.com, 777-HURT, and trostlaw.com. Bob, we've got you back on a smooth connection. Apologies for the issues earlier. It's life. Don't sweat it. We certainly are not. The high school football, though, to pick up where we were leaving off a moment ago, how queasy could some of these area teams be, especially early in the matchups, given the unfamiliarity you initially noted and the fact that there's some quirky travel dynamics as well?
Yeah, hey, radio is my first love, so I'm all right with the non-streams. I believe you had also said squirrels, so I'd gone to Wikipedia to look up squirrels, but I guess you want to talk about football.
Yes.
With that being said, I think you can lose games in the first and second quarter. You obviously don't want to do that on Friday. You want to play well. I don't want to say you have to get off to a 21-0 start, but you don't want to be down 21-0, or you don't want to be 7-7, because I think then doubt creeps in a lot of people's minds that are on the field. And we got to remember, these are kids, so you can only coach them but so much, if that makes sense.
For sure. And we've seen this spot as well where, if you look at the teams in the area that are in action, we'll start with Class 4, EC Glass at JF, 6:30 p.m. Central VA Flooring, kickoff show, 7 o'clock kick on our sister station, 100.9 FM, and on the VTR and Sports app. Go to the top left corner and click Other Stations and do the Virginia's Talk station, and you can listen to that game. But you factor that game in. EC Glass at Jefferson Forest. Heritage, they've got Western Albemarle. Liberty, they have to travel to Broadway. Nelson at Glenver, Appomattox at Radford, Dan River at Gretna, all in a very locally focused Region 2C, and then Alta Vista against Cumberland. Of the majority of the schools, they've been in close games, some of them in close dogfight games last week or the last couple of weeks. What advantage does that give them that if they get off to a slow start and it feels like it's a close game, they're less likely to hit the panic button?
If some of those teams, I wouldn't worry about their first round matchup, honestly, just because the talent gap is so great from a 1-8 when you go lower. I think it all depends on the one, because you can't just walk out, show up, and win games. You still have to have some level of intensity. I think for Heritage, you've got to have a level of intensity to get on top of Western Albemarle, because you don't want them to hang around and get some belief. And from what I hear, Western Albemarle likes to throw the football a lot. So we'll see how that goes. I think Alta Vista would be fine. I think the others, Gretna should be okay. They are playing a team I want to say that they've had familiarity with in the year in a county school in Dan River.
Yep.
Nelson going to Glenver is going to be really tough.
Yeah.
Really tough. And, the thing about LCA, too, you brought them up, heading to the Valley, LCA is a very good team. And I don't want to say anybody's misseeded, but they're probably the best 6th seed in the state playoffs right now.
I know Lane's Lines is not doing official lines right now on these games, but is that the one scenario where, you could have a 6 seed and a 3 seed, but nobody would fault you if you view the 6 seed LCA as the favorite at number 3 seed Broadway, would they?
I'll take LCA.
The pedigree is there. The coaching pedigree is there. The history is all there. And, oh, by the way, for LCA, and we can get into this with other teams if it comes across for them as well, it would not until late for Heritage, maybe not even at all, because the region championship, if they win that, they'd be playing a team from within the region as well. But, JF might be in this boat as well, but going on the road early in the season, how much of an asset is that to a team like LCA where you got to go a couple of hours to Broadway, but now all of a sudden you've done that before and you found a way to navigate that. Even though it wasn't a win, you're familiar with the idea of having to get on a bus.
Here, team because of the pedigree. I know inside the locker room they'll say they believe, but when they get on the field, it's like, oh snap, they have a uniform on that says Yankees or Duke or whatever the case. And I think you fall into that trap of you're so intimidated by what's on the jersey that you become unhinged, so to speak. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, there's
I hope so.
Yeah, well, it helps because there's a value of like the uniform cachet. And if you're talking about teams in the area, LCA is the one of anybody, I would say, in the region 1 through 4, because that's our footprint. Regions 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A playoffs, those classes. LCA seems the one local team where they would have that type of intimidation factor. It's just their jersey number and their helmet in and of itself.
Yeah, I think Heritage and JF have that intimidation factor a little bit too. Heritage has been there recently, and I think Brad Bradley intimidates people that know who Brad Bradley is just because of he's been a winner wherever he goes. JF, I think people are just intimidated because they see JF on the jersey. The thing about it is I don't know if JF will have the intimidation factor this week because EC Glass also is in the city and they know who JF is too. I think JF, Heritage, and LCA all get the intimidation factor. If you want to say who's the most intimidating, it might be a 1A and 1B thing as opposed to, 1, 2, 3, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get it. You're talking about what LCA can do, and nobody would fault you for it. They would not play Heritage until the regional final in Class 3 Is the smart money on a rematch at City Stadium on Black Friday?
Yes, 100%. I have not talked to anyone outside of maybe Turner Ashby's program or Broadway's program or Allegheny's program who thinks that they can be there, because everybody that is quote unquote neutral or has a dog in the fight definitely sees it as Heritage and LCA. But I don't mean to go Herm Edwards on you. We play to win the game type of thing. We have to play to see what's going to happen, and you still got to win. And Frank Rocco knows that just as well as anybody, and Brad Bradley also knows that. When you have coaches that have been around a lot of battles and wars, they know you're just not going to show up and win.
We've touched on Region 3A, 3C, or Region 3C, Class 3, the 3A playoffs, featuring LCA and Heritage already. We'll get to JF Glass to wrap up in just a bit with Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast. Am I oversimplifying? There's not much that needs to be said about Region 1B, at least in the early going. Alta Vista should have their way with Cumberland if everything goes right.
I see no problem for Alta Vista in the first round, just because the talent gap from 1 to 8, once you get there, because Region 1B used to be a 16 playoff too. So I think the talent gap is going to be really hard for whoever was an 8. I don't think it matters. Whoever is an 8 or a 7, the talent gap is going to be really hard. And that also can get to be, depending on where you go, that can get to be a spread out region too.
Yes, it definitely can. Cumberland and Alta Vista in Region 1B. Meanwhile, in Region 2C, that's the 2A playoffs, Region C, a bunch of local teams are there. Dana River at Gretna, you mentioned that a moment ago. You're confident in Gretna because of the familiarity. Nelson County at Glenver, I would imagine that may fall into your just gaps of talent between a 1 and an 8 seed there when Nelson has to head over to Salem to take on Glenver. Appomattox at Radford. Are we overstating that number 5 seed Appomattox going to number 4 seed Radford? That may be the one game where that long bus ride could play in, and the fact that it's Appomattox on the road as opposed to at home could make that a swing factor.
Good long trip. Radford's head coach, Mike Christ, is from he coached in the Lynchburg area. He's the head coach of legendary Dave Christ at Blacksburg, who was formerly at Blacksburg, the coaching legend in the state of Virginia. Of course, Radford's had, in the past, recent memory, Pearson Prelude's son, who is now at Virginia Tech. That could be a game to where you toss a coin and see what the coin comes up. Appomattox has definitely got a lot more confidence lately after a porous start for the Raiders.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable observation on that, Bob. That could be much more of a toss-up type game. Is it Glenver the team to beat? They are in the seeding. Do you view them as the team to beat, or do you see a path where maybe the winner of Radford Appomattox gives them a fit? Maybe Gretna, if Gretna can get there in the regional final.
I see Gretna and Glenver, and I think everybody's downplaying Gretna a little bit. I think Gretna had a bad first showing against JF, but I think Gretna, I don't want to say they got what they wanted out of that matchup, but Gretna's a very good football team to where they're playing now. And when you get them at their level, I think Gretna's a very good football team. And I think athletically, they're going to give a lot of people fits in 2C.
Yes, I would say so. I mean, they're a team that we saw against JF in the season opener of JF Cavalier Football presented by TrostLaw.com. And the depth was different for Gretna against JF. That's an obvious, but they had a lot of pieces where you go, when they get to a competition where they're playing similar size rosters, this could be a real tough out. And it looks like that's been the case for the Gretna Hawks. Meanwhile, for Jefferson Forest, they're the team that lost to Heritage last week in what was a thrilling overtime game, one of 3 regional thrillers if you include GW's double overtime win against Magna Vista. And then, of course, Alta Vista's comeback victory from 13 down to edge Gretna in that rivalry. But for Jefferson Forest, of all the schools, are they the one that you might be most concerned about the hangover effect, just because it also comes with the injury to Peyton Jackson, whose status, it seems at least at this juncture, to be up in the air against EC Glass on Friday night?
I like JF against EC Glass. I don't think there's a problem. I don't think there's a problem there, because I think JF still has confidence. I mean, if you're JF, you have 2 losses on the year, and you lost to LCA and Heritage. I mean, you can't feel but so bad about yourself. And I know if you talk to people at JF, they feel like they could have won both those games. So this team could easily be 10-0 heading into the playoffs. So I don't feel bad for JF. EC Glass got in at 5-5 as a 6 seed. I think the Hilltoppers are, I don't want to say playing with house money, but a little bit.
How much does that worry you if you're a JF supporter, that you've got a team playing with house money? They're looking for revenge after what was I would say, the low point of the last season, that 56-0 loss to Jefferson Forest. And now you got a JF team that's banged up, and if Peyton Jackson can't go, it changes the entire structure of that JF offense. As great as Xander Coleman is as an athlete, you have to move him to quarterback, and therefore the offensive weapon title of him being a guy that gets the ball out in space, that changes completely.
But you've had a week, if that's the way they go, you've had a week to prepare with Xander at quarterback. So I think that changes the game and helps JF even more. I think JF's got a lot of weapons out there. It's, if they don't come out with intensity, they could easily be one of those sitting at home. But I don't see that as a problem, knowing JT Cruz the way I do. I don't see JF lacking in the intensity department. And, for a lot of those seniors, this is it. I mean, every senior in the state of Virginia right now is not guaranteed to play game 2. You got to win game 1 to play game 2 and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, you got to have that level of intensity. You got to have that level of action. Bob Alvis brings the intensity on the Sports Buffet podcast and with us here in the Fast Lane. Bob, a great time speaking with you. Last one for you. We will look back on the regular season finale of the high school football season. Can you ever recall a week where you saw 3 thrillers, with GW's win in a double overtime against Magna Vista, Alta Vista's comeback against Gretna, and then the JF victory the JF loss to Heritage in overtime, where there was that much excitement with that much riding on the line?
It was wild, and I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing it a little bit longer than you have just because I'm older, but I had never seen a game like I had seen on Friday night with everything on the line going into the playoffs like I did with JF and Heritage.
Wow. It was
never.
That exciting, that wild, that crazy of a game, and yet it was so fun to see. It's always fun to see the man who was there, Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, who has been with us today in the Fast Lane. Bob, thank you as always for your time. We love catching up with you, and we look forward to doing it again in another week.
Absolutely.
Bob Alvis with us here in the Fast Lane. When we return, maybe some fan feedback, maybe into the weeds, but definitely the Fast Five at 5-ish with a lot of other stories that have popped up, including a developing situation. Is that what we would do if we were like your shock jock news TV outlet?
I think so, yeah.
Breaking news. Like the definition, by the way, before we take a break in the Fast Lane.
Time to take a detour in the Fast Lane.
The definition of breaking news, according to certain 4-letter sports networks, especially when they're airing the Embrace debate shows, and the definition of breaking news, it's just even more ridiculous, is on the news networks on cable TV, MSNBC, Fox News, or whatever they're going to call it, and CNN. Breaking news: President Trump lands at Mar-a-Lago. Breaking news: former President Barack Obama speaking at commencement. That's not breaking news. Like, I get you're putting it out there in big, red, flashing caps lock letters to get people's attention, but I've seen it so much, I don't even buy into it. Just had to go there.
After Ed's potentially unnecessary detour, let's get back on the road in the Fast Lane.
Yes, we will. And when we return, the Fast Five at 5-ish, other topics, including breaking news, developing situations regarding Virginia Cavalier football. After this, VTRN Sports App, 93.3 FM, and Fast Lane Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts. In most things, it's hard to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's easy with your home or business. Call the Concrete Wizard and transform your place into an extraordinary space. If you're tired of looking unsightly concrete, then bring light to your old surfaces. Call the Concrete Wizard for free design consultations, free estimates, and fast professional concrete resurfacing. And visit theconcretewizard.com for ideas from other before and after photos.
Going once, going twice, gone! This is the last year you can have Terrell E. Mosley install a new qualifying heat pump and get a $2,000 federal tax credit. If your current system is over 10 years old, you should seriously consider updating your system and take advantage of this tax credit. Not to mention, a new, more energy-efficient system will also save you on your electric bill. Call Terrell E. Mosley. It's a free service for them to come and discuss the options available to you. Don't miss out. Call Terrell E. Mosley or visit them at terrellemosley.com.
Do you want to experience the benefit of radio and digital advertising for your business, but have no or limited funds to advertise? Let us tell you about InsaneRadioDeals.com. No cash needed. We will advertise your business on our 8 over-the-air AM and FM stations and our digital platforms that distribute out news talk, sports, and classic hits in exchange for gift cards, tickets, or experiences that will be used for your business. This allows you to advertise across the entire Virginia Talk Radio network without any cash needed and to generate a large amount of new business. Last year, we started over 900,000 streams on our online platforms, so VTRN and InsaneRadioDeals.com is the place where your business gets heard. Want to learn more? Call Melinda 434-534-8500 or email info@VirginiaTalkRadioNetwork.com.
Will the Easy Glass Hilltoppers exact sweet revenge from an earlier season loss to the JF Cavaliers? Or will JF punch their ticket to round 2 of the VHSL Class 4 playoffs? Find out this Friday on JF Cavaliers Football, presented by TrostLaw.com. Your Central VA Flooring kickoff show starts at 6:30 on the Virginia Talk Station app, 100.9 FM Lynchburg, 95.5 FM Bedford, and open WIQO radio on your smart speaker. JF Football is also presented by Forest Youth Athletic Association, Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Bedford, and Meineke Car Care.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Invite the chaos or invite the reorganization? That now in the Fast Five at 5-ish.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
The New York Giants on Monday fired Brian Daboll as their head coach, promoting Mike Kafka, offensive coordinator, to be the interim head coach of that 2-8 team. Meanwhile, they also announced today Jameis Winston will start at quarterback Sunday with Jackson Dart in concussion protocol and Russell Wilson seemingly not getting any more starting jobs. It's an interesting couple of questions. One, have the Giants made the right decision in firing Daboll, if nothing more than the fact that the video of him pleading and imploring Jackson Dart to go back in the game despite being in concussion protocol was not a good look? But this guy's had 4 concussions his rookie year. My question is how? Like, how do you keep getting cleared that often? Have we not learned anything from the Tua Tagovailoa situation where he looked woozy after his 4th one in like 4 years? We're talking about 4th in 1 year? What in the world? 10 games.
It's called trying to keep your job and feeling like Jackson Dart was the only thing keeping his job.
I mean, I get that theoretically, but this is
horrible.
It is, and this is an example of somebody who happens to, as Melissa McCarthy would say, have lots of power, but is not necessarily a good leader, because you're not getting people to actually follow you by putting players back in the game. The locker room, I would think, has to be able to sense this. Yeah. You're talking about grown-ups here who've been around a long enough period of time. And you keep putting the quarterback back in. The Giants literally had no choice but to make this change and move on from their coach and start over, because if you want to even have a chance with Jackson Dart, you got to be able to keep him on the field and healthy. And if your coach can't seemingly grasp that concept and see the bigger picture, he's not fit to be in the right leadership spot. I think it's reasonable, though, to criticize the GM, Joe Shane, wondering what he's doing as well there. Jameis Winston, if nothing more, will know how to get the ball out. It may go to the other team as much as it may go to him. He'll be entertaining in that regard. But Jameis Winston, who, as much as people love the personality and the redemptive story, I think people do forget about the warts that accompanied him out of Florida State that were very justified. I think you can put all that together and kind of point that out and say maybe he has had a redemptive story, but that's something that's worth mentioning. But he's a guy that the locker room rallies around, and I think if nothing else, he understands his value and situation. Meanwhile, if you're speaking of things I'm not buying, LSU trying to get out of having to pay Brian Kelly the buyout money of $53 million because they want to find a way to fire him with cause. As Deion Sanders would like to remind us, No. I am not buying this at all. You didn't like his performance. You made a quick decision. Look, there are, and I think Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com did a great job in his article a couple of days ago about chaos is a ladder. It's an opportunity to climb above. Yeah. But at the start of the article, Chris mentioned that there's certain situations where you have to fire the coach because it's proven untenable results. And then there are certain situations where you should probably exercise patience and see if it can get better. You have to, because the results just are not getting better. Mike Gundy, Oklahoma State. The guy was just not willing to change. Brent Pry, Virginia Tech. We had 4 years worth of data, 3.5, that this guy was in over his head as a head coach and just could not make the adjustments necessary in game or get his team prepared to win. Maybe a great organizer, but not great schematically. There are examples like that. But then there are other examples, and I think Brian Kelly fits in this category. And I would put Jamie Chadwell of Liberty in this. It's the only time I'll compare Chadwell and Liberty to Brian Kelly and LSU. I know it, LU and LSU, but Chadwell, personality-wise, is a lot more likable than Brian Kelly, personality-wise, is. But both of them were in spots where they have a history of success at multiple stops over multiple years.
Yeah.
And they hit a rough patch. When you're in that spot, as much as you're in an instant gratification society, I think you need to be willing to make changes. Personnel changes, staff changes, structural changes and adjustments. And if Chadwell's not willing to do that after this season, I think the seat gets even hotter and hotter. But if he is, I think you give him a chance to see if this thing can come through. And there's more on that about how this can be done, looking at Liberty and looking and comparing other spots. But if you're just flat out firing someone because you got a quick trigger, pardon the expression here, you could put Penn State in this category with James Franklin being available.
Oh,
They have
absolutely.
a 3-game losing streak after last year making the college football playoff semifinals. And again, it was a bad Drew Allard interception, but you made the college football playoff semifinals.
Yeah.
If he doesn't throw it, maybe you beat Notre Dame. I don't think they were beating Ohio State, but you might have made the championship game. That's an irrational decision. Understand the yin and yang. I think Liberty's Ian McCall is smart enough to not fall into that trap, but it's worth bringing that up because LSU trying to find a way to claim that they fired someone with cause so they don't have to pay the buyout is literally the example of, oh, maybe we should have thought about this a little bit differently. Meanwhile, speaking of thinking of things a little bit differently,
Number 3.
we look at what's going on outside the Salem Red Sox and inside. They have changed their name to the Salem Ridge Yaks. I don't like this name. If you're changing your farm affiliation from the Red Sox to, I'll just say,
Red Jacks.
I mean, if there's someone else, great. I don't really like the Ridge Yaks name. To me, and I will quote our fearless leader, Gary Burns, on this one. This sounds like the type of idea where you have a bunch of people with marketing degrees who spend a bunch of money on those marketing degrees, and they need to find a way to justify that and the think tank idea permeation that's out there. Just stick with the same thing that's worked. It's worked well for them. This is the height of entrepreneurial, creative types getting so creative, they kind of miss the mark on something like this. I hope I'm wrong. I think people will still show out, but the question really is why? Meanwhile, worth memorializing in a different way, former NFL Commissioner Paul Tagliabue passed away Monday at the age of 84. His family announced he was the commissioner starting in 1989 and ran until Goodell took over in 2006. 89 to 2006, Paul Tagliabue leading the NFL. The NFL would not be where they are today. I think you make the argument he is single-handedly the greatest commissioner in the history of sports. Bettman's done a lot of good for the NHL, but there have also been some challenges he had to navigate. Baseball, I don't know if anybody would think Seelig or Manfred have done a great job. I am not in the you can only worship David Stern category. What happened in a lot of cases, particularly the gambling cover-ups and the NBA's issues with that, I think have to cloud David Stern. You have to consider that. Paul Tagliabue never had that on his resume. He found a way to streamline the NFL and make it central, easy to follow, and much more worthwhile in terms of a product that your average fan could comprehend. And to his credit, he was able to get Jerry Jones and others to buy into the idea of salary cap, maximum and minimums, and revenue sharing so that every team could sell a level of hope within their world of sports. Meanwhile, to wrap it up in
Number 1.
Liberty women's basketball. We touched on it earlier, but Avery Mills, 21 points, 10 rebounds, and Claudia Asian, 17 points. Career high 7 assists. And they had a 17-0 third quarter run in their victory against East Carolina on Friday afternoon. I know it's a little bit late to be bringing that up, but they're 2-0 right now. This is a good victory for Alexis Girard. And the as much as he can do early in his tenure, it will be helpful to calm was he promoted because of the timing or is he promoted because he's a legitimate head coach? Early on, the success indicates he's a good coach. Jury is still out, but this goes a long way for Liberty women's
Two
basketball.
games are important tests. JMU away, Duke at home.
Very much so. The schedule gets more difficult, but very much easier to figure out for judging the Liberty Flames. Meanwhile, more on them tomorrow in the Fast Lane. Soccer, field hockey, basketball, and fan feedback. We got a lot to do, so little time tomorrow in the Fast Lane. In the meantime, download the VTRN Sports app and listen starting at 6:30 tonight. Virginia Tech basketball against St. Joe's for free on the VTRN Sports app at 93.3 FM. Thanks for listening to the Fast Lane on VTRN Sports 93.3